Hello everybody, thank you for coming back to the channel and welcome to this new chapter in which I'm going to build the lower wing of the Antonov 2. So I've already started a little bit. So what I've done is typically I cover with plastic, I put some masking tape, I then trace out the shapes. What I have here already is the trailing edges. I do it already in two because it's two wings, right? So those are two trailing edges. I've got here one spar that I trace out of here, and I've got the other spar that I trace out from this one. And also what is different on this one, several things are different on this one. I have here, if you see it here, up here, what I believe are dihedral braces. These are the pieces, and also marked, you can't see it here, almost you can see it here, that actually then connect the wing to the fuselage. So that's good, at least I've got some braces there that should give the angle, and I've already cut those four out. It's two small ones, two big ones, two for each wing and things like that, right? So those are going to wait there for the moment. Challenges that are going to come here, and again I'm not sure if you can see, let's see if I move you slightly down there. If I move you slightly down here, we see here this profile. This says this is the cross section of this part, and here it says fill with solid balsa. So somehow I have to be able to connect the wings into the lower part of the fuselage with those braces that I mentioned before, and then I have to put in some kind of solid balsa over it. No idea how that is going to go, but I'll have to figure it out, right? That is the whole point. And then the other big challenge with the wing, with the lower wing, is that I'm building also the ailerons. They're marked here. I believe I'm going to do them probably a little bit bigger so that I can connect in with the top wings. And the bigger challenge here is that I have to build in the servos. I've got them somewhere lying around there in the corner. I'll be connecting in the servos on the lower wing, and as I mentioned on the previous chapter, the servos will move the aileron on the lower wing, and the lower wing will then move the top wing. So that is the plan. So the construction method is going to be the same. I still got to cut out the leading edges and the ribs. Base ribs here are quite thick, like 1/4 of an inch, like 5-6 millimeters. So good that I've got some balsa of that also. Quite hefty structure, which I'm not surprised, as it probably does need to be quite big and strong, because that will take the hits, or some of the hits. Hopefully not many of the hits. Let's say it like that. So anyhow, I'll get on with the building. Now it's going to be the leading edge. Once I have the leading edge, then I'll put all the elements together, mark it, and then mark the slots, and then put in the ribs. So I'll show you some progress as I get along. It's going to take a while, especially with the ribs, but that is the fun part. So just a brief update on the progress. So here I've got the ribs from both lower wings. I've already sanded both sides. First of all, I put on some masking tape on one side to hold them flat, sanded the top, then put masking tape on the top to sand the bottom, and they are kind of as good as it'll get, probably. Not perfect, but as good as I can get them. And then what I can do now, maybe I can just pull out this piece, which is hard to pull out, which kind of takes the step, the place of the spar, and there are all the ribs with the root ribs, the thick ones, and then also all the ribs in between. One thing you might notice, one of these ribs is very short. That's actually the first one I did, because I traced it out from here, and I'm glad that I went there and checked if the position was good also for the spar, because I had some issues on the upper wing, and then I realized it was actually maybe 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters short. So then I extended then the rib, and then I used number 2 as the template for the rest. That's why then the others are already longer. I can still use this one on the tip, because it's going to be a shorter one anyhow. But good to check things more often than not, right? As carpenters say, measure twice, cut once, and I don't always follow that, and then I have to repeat pieces. So now with this, they should get nicely both into the trailing edge and into the leading edge that I still have to cut out. And now it's going to be the assembly process for lower wings. But also a consideration that before I rush into it, I have to think where I'm going to put in the servo, which I think is going to be in this position, and also then drill holes through the other ribs so that I can thread the cable through. So before I jump into building it, which is kind of my temptation, I've got to do some thinking, which is not always as easy as it may sound. Time for an update. Before I continue with the wing, I don't know if you remember, or if you followed along, I did make this canopy and I started to put on the plastic covering to make the glass, or the pretend glass. It didn't look too good, so I'm giving up on the idea of putting the glass. So what I've decided to do, I've started already, is to remove the plastic paint that I've put in here. It does leave a little bit of a mess with the glue, maybe you can't see it, but I know it's there. I can see it actually very clearly, so I have to clean that up. So I'm calling that a little bit of a failure, putting on the glazing. I'll take it off and then I'll just leave it. I think it looks okay even without the glazing. And just to justify my cowardice, it's good for ventilation for the ESC, right? So that's something that I'll do gradually, because I know that this is something that is blocking me a little bit psychologically. So anyhow, that's with the canopy. Now with the wing, this is the lower right wing. So it's already, everything has been glued. So now it's just time to remove all the pins that are holding it down. I'll do it quickly so you don't just wait there. And I'm hoping it looks kind of okay. I did need quite a lot of adjustment actually while doing it. It was as precise as I could, but still there's some adjustment. There's a difference with the top wing. On the top wing I had the 1mm shims underneath both sides, like leading and trailing edge. I have the feeling that on this one the trailing edge is actually pretty much flush to the ribs. So there is the structure of the wing, quite sturdy, I have to say. I still probably have to put in, there's still the last rib to be put in. I have to see exactly where. I think somewhere here it goes in, but I need to probably sand it down somehow and figure it out where it goes. I'll probably take that same rib, cut off the top, cut it in half and put a little bit on top, a little bit at the bottom, as I did with the top wing. So I think kind of okay, sturdy. Also important thing, let's see if I have the servo here. I did cut in the holes, let's see if you can see it. So here is where the servo should be sitting, and I cutting holes into the ribs as I was mentioning, and this will then have to, I'm not going to put them in completely because I have to take it out then afterwards. And then my plan is, let's see, for the servo to sit somehow like this. I'll probably put in some wood, some padding to glue it. It should be flush. I might need to sand it down, maybe not even half a millimeter, less than like quarter of a millimeter, so that it's completely flush, and then cover them by the tissue. And then what I need to figure out is also, because out of here is going to be then the servo arm, right? It's going to stick out from here, going back to the aileron. So I need to figure out how to cover that up, that I can put tissue around. So I've got to think about it. Probably just some balsa strips, maybe put a little bit of a structure in here into the lower part, actually on this side. I don't know what to point with. Just take this pen. So probably I have to put in some kind of a structure or maybe the full panel. Actually the full panel might be actually easier, I'm thinking. I don't know, I have to think about it, and also to think if I should do it before or after sanding, maybe even before sanding. But at the same time also leaving enough space to be able to put in the aileron, the servo. So that's a little bit of the retrofitting, which is a big part of the fun. So that is in the lower right hand wing in progress. And before I get to the sanding or anything, I want to do the other one, the left hand lower wing. And maybe just to show I made a boo-boo, as Cliff likes to say. I was all very happy with myself, sanding down, and this is the trailing edge, this is the spar, and this was going to be the leading edge. But instead of sanding down the grooves on where it has to be, I did it on top, so I basically ruined this piece. Yeah, as I said, I was very proud, sanding away, thinking how great it is, and then when I get to the last one, or the one before last, I realized, boo-boo. So that one, hopefully not completely wasted, I'll use it for something else. In the meantime, I cut out another one, and what I didn't show on the other wing, and it's probably also on the top wing that I didn't even realize, is the mastery of the design, right? So I believe the design calls for this slot to be built into the leading edge. The leading edge carries all the structural weight and the structural strength, and this being the wingtip, of which by the way I also broke one, had to make two, actually fits in there, and that should be relatively very much in place. I'm going to say relatively very much in place. So anyhow, this you can't see now because I've got the wing right underneath the tripod. There it is. So what I'll be doing now, I'll be setting it down. You can't see it, right? But I'll be setting down here will be the leading edge. This will be then the trailing edge. It's confusing because both wings are there together, and this will be the main spar, and this that you can almost not see is the wingtip, and these are the ribs. So I'll go one by one, measuring them, not measuring, like putting them in place and seeing how much more I need to sand down. I did it also with the other wing, and as you can see, sometimes I meet the mark, sometimes I don't. But I think this is going to be okay anyhow, because I'll be sanding it down, and then maybe spots of glue. I don't even need a glue. I think with the tissue that should be okay. But then that's what I'm going to do now. So build it up, fix it in place, and with a little pin marking till where the rib actually needs to get. Make sure that the main spar is in place, that there's not any useless tension. Let's say there can be some tension, but not pointless tension, and build it up. And when that is built up, then yeah, do the sanding down and get the shape. And a progress report on the lower wing. So now I have on the scales, this is the left lower wing at 8.03 grams, and the right one is, if I can balance it, it's around, I did it before, 7.44, so about half a gram lighter one is than the other. I think it's okay. Next steps, as with the top wing, is going to be the carving of the leading edge. So I'll use probably this shape that I used for the leading edge of the top wing, to make sure that I'm on track, and do some carving with a normal cutter, and then the sanding using the masking tape and everything. So once that it's done, I'll show you, because then the next step is going to be to cut out the ailerons themselves. So some progress, and time for an update as I get on the scales. So I managed to build up both wings. I think you've seen that already, but I've also carved it down, more carving than sanding if I can, because then there's less dust. Just looking at it now, maybe actually one wing is just a little bit thicker than the other, but it'll have to do. Like basically a lot of carving, and then sanding. And then what I've also built in, these little planks, so that when I have the servo in somehow, that there is a place to here, so that there is a place for the tissue to stick on, right? So here it'll stick on this around, it'll leave a hole there for the servo arm to come out, and then on this other side, then the tissue will actually stick to the servo. That's the plan, at least. Then I have to thread this through. I'll put in the servo before I actually put on the tissue. So I've put on that planking with not a lot of glue, not too much, in case I need to remove it. Doesn't look too perfect, but anyhow, like it is what it is. I've done it on both, as you can see. On this one I also kind of got ahead of myself. I put it already on the aileron, but I'm going to need to cut it out and cut it to shape and things like that, so I'm going to need to remove a little bit there. But what I wanted to do is also now weigh it, because it did go down in weight a little bit. That's now 7.1 grams, and this one is 6.5, so around half a gram. That might be also a little bit, not much, but around half a gram difference, which I think I can live with. And then the next step is going to be to cut out the ailerons. So as I say, I think on the plan it's actually they would be a bit smaller, but I'm okay having them bigger, even if it's not completely scaled, and hopefully more control. Having also ailerons on the top wing should also give me control, right? So might be overdoing it, but anyhow, so putting here the servo, that means that the aileron is going to go from this bay out to there, and so I'll This one actually I leave in place. I'll cut this one, this one, this one, this one and this one off, and then build up the ailerons as I did with the top wing, and the same on the other wing. So that's what I'm going to do now. And I've been making quite a few small mistakes. I've already corrected them, but on one of the panels I glued it actually in the wrong place. I already told you about the panel that I glued to the aileron section, and now I've been cutting off the ailerons and doing them with a jig that I have somewhere, cutting at the angle. You might still see the glue is still wet, and then basically I have to trim it down, putting an end rib there to make space. The problem with mistakes is that then I have to correct them, right? And for example, if I have glue in the wrong place, then I have to peel it off. It pulls off a bit of the wood, so that's a bit of what happens. But well, mistakes are part of it, and hopefully now I'm going to start to do, as I mentioned before, I'm going to try to pull off the plastic from the canopy, try to clean it up. As you see, it's quite ugly now, and hopefully I don't make big mistakes on this one, because that was a difficult canopy to build. And the canopy update, so I've been taking off the plastic. That came off quite well, and then actually peeling the glue off was the more difficult thing. It has caused some damage. I do need to sand it. I have sanded it down a little bit, so now I need to fix it up. And I've been thinking that it's kind of dark, this one. I liked it when it was kind of the pale wood color more, so I think I'm going to take the opportunity and I'm going to paint it over again with a much lighter and surprising color. So an update on the Antonov. Here, as you can see, I've got the lower wings. I've already cut off and built up the ailerons. That's the left lower wing, and this is the right lower wing. Not as perfect as I would like to. Somehow that's a little bit crooked, but I'm hoping that the tissue covers that. That's a bit of a dangerous statement, because tissue actually often highlights more the issues than anything else. And with the cockpit, I left you with a blue cockpit, and I come back with a pink one. You're going to hate me for this one, you're going to roast me for this one. I know maybe it's not typical. I was thinking of making the Antonov kind of all colors possible, but my daughter likes it, so it's good. And it's a much paler color. It has this kind of weathered look, because some of the blue still shows through, so I think it's going to be okay. The problem of not having the plastic canopy, the windows on itself, is going to cause a lot of drag, for sure, a lot of drag. But it might have some ventilation, right? So that's kind of my own excuse. What I have to do now with the wings, I have to bring down the model, which is up there. Let's see if you can see it. Yes, that's the model with the upper wings on it, not glued, but just with the toothpicks. If you remember on that one, the dihedral, you can see it probably, is still not completely fixed, and I have now to figure out how to connect the lower wing to these two points here. For that, we have these two braces that I showed you at the very beginning of the chapter, I believe. So I have to figure out how to, not this one, how to connect these to the wing and then actually put them onto the fuselage. So I'm going to be doing a bit of experimentation here. Maybe the using of the toothpicks is not bad, because then in that way I can put it together without gluing, and then glue just before I actually finish it off after the tissue and things like that. So that's going to be then the next challenge. And here is the lower wing kind of assembled, as you can see, just with the pegs holding it in place, as well as the upper wing. I did have to take the upper wing off to put in the lower wing, and then I put it back on. I still have not put on the lower ailerons. I still have to work on that. But what I've done also, I've used this piece that I ruined before, and I've created some kind, what looks like a dipstick, it isn't, for the dihedral marking. So I know that for the top wing, the wingtip should be at, you can't see it, but it's 17.4 millimeters. So we can see there that the right top wing is a little bit high. So I still have to squeeze it down a little bit and figure out how to keep it in place when I glue it. So I might need to resort to super glue to hold it in place, and then drop in some drops of glue there. And the left wing is also significantly higher than it should. It's the pencil mark, not the cut. Now for the lower wing, I think I got it better, because I still haven't drilled anything, it's just with the pegs, and that's at 8 8.4 millimeters. That's kind of spot on because I can still move it up and down. And on the other side, on the other wing, it's also, I think, quite accurate. So the overall construction is there. The next challenges are, of course, as I say, the ailerons. I also need to put in the little plastic hooks so that the push rods connecting the top and bottom ailerons work. I also have to put in the horns for the ailerons, the lower ailerons that will connect them, the servos. I still have to figure out how to assemble the whole thing with the right dihedral. I still have to do the tissue, but even before that I need to figure out how to put in the wing struts. It's just two, they're thick pieces, they're somewhere underneath there, they're drawn on the plan, I think somewhere there. I've got to maybe clear out the table and look for the drawing, and I've got to figure out how to, on what ribs to connect it. It's somehow marked, but I've also got there, it's marked there, and I think also on the plan. I have to figure out how to connect them in a way that they're actually supporting each other, but both top and bottom wing. And also I'm still considering if I should do the rigging. There is rigging marked on the plan, and I have to look at photographs of the actual plane, because I think here it says it's double wires. I don't know if you can see it there through that piece of plastic. Double wires there, but I'm not sure what that actually means, other than it's two wires. And I have to see also how I would then eventually connect it into the roots and to the actual struts. So quite a lot of thinking there. An option is to not do anything with the rigging, just leave the struts and hope that it all holds, which I think it would. But if it can get a little bit more strength and more realistic look with the rigging, it would be nice. But I have a lot to learn from the likes of Cliff and Skippy. So those are a lot of headaches still to do. I call them headaches, but actually fun challenges to do and to overcome. But for the moment I'm just going to put it up on its hooks, up on the bookshelf, leave it there for a while, and I'll try to finish a little bit of what we have here, which is the Pilatus little rubber powered engine plane. So that is it for now. Complex, fun, challenging, exhausting, but all good. So as always, thank you everybody very much for following along and for all your tips and recommendations, and I'll see you next time.